The sapphire blue of Marcity's artificial sky shifted to a deep crimson as the sun began to set. Dr. Lena Van stared out the window of her laboratory at the Institute for Interplanetary Biological Investigation, EIB, watching as the massive structures of Zenith Tower gleamed in the fading light. The sprawling metropolis had become humanity's crowning achievement after the great energy catastrophe of 2345 forced most of Earth's population to relocate to Mars. The year was 2457, and humanity had recently established formal diplomatic relations with the Sirius Alliance, a coalition of powerful alien species that had helped rebuild Marcity after the catastrophe. The gleaming spires and advanced transportation systems were a testament to alien technology, particularly from the Archelon and Feridian species, who had contributed the most to the city's development. Lena sighed, turning back to her workstation, where a microscope displayed the molecular structure of an ancient tooth enamel sample. At 29, she was one of the youngest molecular biology researchers at the Institute, specializing in tooth enamel enzymes. Despite her expertise, a familiar feeling of inadequacy washed over her as she glanced at the laboratory equipment, most of it designed and manufactured by Feridian engineers. Humans rely purely on tech. We stay superior, she muttered, repeating the Sirius Alliance's favorite catchphrase when referring to humans. The sentiment had become increasingly common since the Alliance enacted the Biological Mutuality and Beast Life Regulation, a set of laws that classified humans as having no natural weapons and restricted their access to certain technologies under the guise of maintaining peace. A notification blinked on her holographic display, reminding her of the diplomatic symposium at Zenith Tower later that evening. As a representative of IBI, her attendance was mandatory, though she dreaded the thought of enduring more condescending remarks from Alliance officials. She packed her research notes and headed for the door, pausing briefly to look at a framed article on her wall. Natural Bite Defense, a theoretical approach to human evolutionary advantages. The paper had been published by Colonel James Jim Carter, a veteran of the Galactic Cold War who now led a fringe group called Fangs of Terra. Most scientists dismissed his theories as pseudoscience, but something about his hypothesis had always resonated with Lena. As the transport pod carried her toward Zenith Tower, Lena couldn't help but wonder if tonight would be just another reminder of humanity's perceived inferiority, or if perhaps something would finally change. The diplomatic symposium at Zenith Tower buzzed with activity. Representatives from various species mingled in the Grand Hall, their distinct physiologies creating a colorful tapestry against the sleek, minimalist architecture. Holographic displays showcased the latest technological advancements from across the Alliance. Most notably, the Archelon's simulated tactile experience, being demonstrated in the Hydrofoam Park section of the city. Lena stood near the refreshment area, nursing a glass of synthesized wine and observing the interactions around her. Most humans at the event were service staff or minor officials, rarely included in the important conversations happening throughout the room. "Quite the spectacle, isn't it?" a voice said beside her. Lena turned to find Ambassador Zelser, the Feridian representative to the Sirius Alliance. His elegant, silver-scaled form towered over her, his bioluminescent patterns shifting in what she had learned to recognize as a display of smug satisfaction. "It certainly is impressive," Lena replied diplomatically, trying to mask her discomfort. Zelser's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among Feridians. "I was just discussing with my colleagues the remarkable progress we've made in integrating humans into our alliance. Your species adapts quite well, considering your limitations." "Limitations?" Lena couldn't help but ask, though she immediately regretted taking the bait. The ambassador's luminescent patterns brightened. "Well, your biological framework. Of course. We've conducted extensive research on Earth's fauna and determined that humans are uniquely disadvantaged among apex predators. No claws, no significant strength, dull senses, and certainly no natural weapons to speak of. He gestured to a nearby group of officials who had gathered to listen. Your species' only real contribution is your capacity for technological innovation, albeit using principles borrowed from our civilizations. The comment was broadcast through the hall's tactile aura transmitters, allowing everyone present to feel the condescension in his words. Lena felt her face flush with anger and embarrassment as the assembled aliens emitted various sounds of amusement. "Ambassador, with all due respect," she began, but was interrupted by an urgent notification on her communicator. The message was from her laboratory assistant. "Urgent breakthrough on the ancient enamel sample. Results indicate potential enzyme activity. Come immediately." Lena excused herself from the conversation, her heart racing not just from the ambassador's insult, but from the potential implications of the message. The ancient tooth enamel sample she'd been studying for years might finally yield results. Results that could challenge everything the Alliance believed about human biology. As she rushed toward the exit, she could still hear Zelser addressing the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you, human beings possess no natural weapons. Their pitiful existence relies entirely on borrowed technology." The laughter of the alien dignitaries followed her out the door, fueling a determination she hadn't felt in years. Back at the IIBI laboratory, Lena burst through the doors to find her team gathered around a holographic display. Elena Zhao, a 28-year-old marine biological engineer specializing in alien marine life tooth anatomy, looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Lena, you need to see this," Elena said, gesturing to the molecular model rotating above the projection table. "The archaeological enamel sample we received from Earth, the one we failed to activate 5 years ago. It's showing enzymatic activity we've never documented before." Lena approached the display, her trained eye immediately recognizing the unusual molecular configuration. "How is this possible? We ran every test imaginable on this sample." "The difference is the medium," explained Elena. "We exposed it to tissue samples from medium-tier organisms, specifically Archelon cell structures. The enzyme triggered an aggressive chemical reaction that would cause extreme pain in living tissue." Ronaldo Ortiz, their 32-year-old technology expert, who had secretly been feeding information to underground resistance groups, pulled up additional data. "The reaction is similar to what happens when a predator species encounters certain defense mechanisms in prey, but far more potent. If this enzyme were active in modern human teeth, we would have a natural weapon," Lena finished, the implications dawning on her. She stared at the rotating model, memories of Ambassador Zelser's condescending words still fresh in her mind. Their excitement was short-lived. The laboratory doors slid open, and a delegation of Xerius Alliance officials entered, led by Major Lareth Kor, a Feridian military advisor known for his harsh stance on human affairs. "Dr. Lena Van," he announced formally, his bioluminescent patterns flashing in authoritative patterns. "By order of the Xerius Alliance Council, all research activities related to human dental biology are hereby suspended, effective immediately." "On what grounds?" Lena demanded, instinctively stepping between the officials and the holographic display. Major Kor produced an official directive. "Your research has been classified as pursuing illegal weapons development under the Biological Mutuality and Beast Life Regulation. Furthermore, the diversity of Earth organisms was largely extinct 200 years ago, making this research not only illegal but futile." As the Alliance officials began securing the laboratory and confiscating research materials, an emergency alert blared through the citywide communication system. "Attention all citizens of Marcity. Security breach in Outer Sector 7. Multiple forest shadow predator sightings confirmed. Conventional weapons proving ineffective. All residents advised to seek secure shelter immediately." Lena exchanged glances with Elena and Ronaldo. Forest shadow predators were Archelon apex hunters, biological weapons that weren't supposed to exist on Mars. If conventional weapons couldn't stop them? In that moment, as the alert continued to sound, and Lareth Kor ordered his men to seize their research data, Lena made a decision that would change the course of human history in the solar system. She needed to find Colonel Jim Carter and the Fangs of Terra. It was time to prove that human teeth were indeed a natural weapon. The tunnels beneath Old Red Haven District were a maze of abandoned mining shafts converted into makeshift living quarters and command centers. Lena had never ventured this deep into Marcity's underground network, but Ronaldo had provided explicit instructions on finding the Fangs of Terra headquarters. After evading Alliance patrols and navigating the dimly lit passages, she finally reached a heavy metal door marked with a subtle tooth-like symbol, the secret sign of the resistance group. She knocked in the pattern Ronaldo had taught her. 3 quick taps, a pause, then 2 more. The door slid open to reveal a tall, weathered man in his 50s, his sharp eyes assessing her with military precision. "Dr. Lena Van," he said, not a question but a statement. "I've been expecting you. Ronaldo's message said you might be coming." "Colonel Carter," Lena acknowledged, recognizing the leader of Fangs of Terra from his published papers. "Jim," he corrected, gesturing for her to enter. "We don't stand on ceremony down here." The headquarters was surprisingly well equipped, a combination of salvaged Alliance technology and human ingenuity. Maps of Marcity and surveillance feeds covered one wall, while another was dedicated to biological research equipment that rivaled what Lena had access to at EB. "Impressive setup," she remarked, taking in the operation. "Necessity breeds innovation," Jim replied. "Especially when you're told you have no natural defenses." He led her to a central planning table where several people were gathered, including Elena, who had arrived earlier through a different route. "You've already met Elena," Jim said. "And this is Ronaldo, though I suspect you know each other." Ronaldo nodded with a hint of embarrassment. "Sorry for the secrecy. Lena, I've been feeding information to Fangs of Terra for years. The Alliance's suppression of human biological research couldn't go unchallenged." Lena took a deep breath. "I'm here because I believe you're right. Human teeth, specifically the enzymes in our enamel, might be more powerful than we realized. But the Alliance has shut down my research and confiscated most of our data." Jim's eyes lit up. "We've been saying this for years. The natural bite defense theory isn't just speculation. It's our evolutionary heritage. But we need proof that the Alliance can't ignore or suppress." "I managed to save this," Lena said, removing a small container from her pocket. Inside was a fragment of the ancient tooth enamel sample. "It's not much, but it's enough to continue the research. The enzyme reacts with Archelon cellular structures in a way that could neutralize the forest shadow predators." "Perfect timing," Jim said grimly. "Those predators aren't random occurrences. They're part of a controlled release, a test by certain factions within the Alliance to assess human vulnerabilities." "Why would they do that?" Lena asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. "To justify further restrictions on human autonomy," Elena explained. "If we can't defend ourselves against biological threats, we become even more dependent on Alliance protection." Jim pointed to the surveillance feeds showing chaos in the outer sectors of Marcity. "We need to develop a defense quickly. If your enzyme theory is correct, we could create a weapon that's technically not a weapon, just an activation of our natural biological capabilities." Lena nodded, determination replacing her earlier uncertainty. "I'll need access to your lab equipment and any samples of Archelon biology you might have." "We have everything you need," Jim assured her. "Welcome to Fangs of Terra, Dr. Van. Let's show the Alliance what human teeth can really do." The next 48 hours were a blur of intense research and development. Lena, Elena, and the Fangs of Terra scientists worked tirelessly in the underground laboratory, analyzing the ancient enamel sample and developing a delivery system for the enzyme. The enzyme itself is remarkable, Lena explained during one of their brief rest periods, displaying the molecular structure on a holographic projector. It appears to target specific proteins in alkaline cellular membranes, causing rapid breakdown and extreme pain responses. Can it be synthesized? Jim asked, studying the projection. Not easily, Elena answered. The structure is complex, and we don't have access to the necessary equipment here, but we can extract and concentrate it from the sample. Ronaldo, who had been monitoring Alliance communications, joined them with a concerned expression. We have a problem. The Alliance has declared martial law in sectors affected by the Predator attacks. Major Kor is leading the response, and he's implementing extreme measures against any humans suspected of unauthorized biological research. We need to move faster, Jim decided. What's our delivery system looking like? Lena gestured to a workbench, where several small spherical devices were being assembled. We're calling them bite spheres. The concept is simple. A concentrated dose of the enzyme, encapsulated in a brittle shell. When bitten or crushed, it releases the enzyme directly onto whatever broke the shell. Primitive but effective, Jim nodded approvingly. How many can we produce? With the current sample, maybe a dozen, Lena admitted. We need to test them first to confirm efficacy. I have an idea for that, Ronaldo said. Ambassador Zelser is hosting an inauguration ceremony at Zenith Tower tomorrow. Security will be focused on the main event, leaving the lower levels relatively unguarded. There's a minigun Silver Falls corridor that connects to an old weapons depot, a perfect place to encounter a predator for our test. The plan was risky, but necessary. As night fell, a small team consisting of Jim, Lena, Elena, and 2 Fangs of Terra operatives made their way through the service tunnels towards Zenith Tower. Each carried a single bite sphere, their prototype weapons against the biological terror stalking Marcity streets. The minigun Silver Falls corridor was eerily quiet, its defensive systems powered down for maintenance. As they approached the weapons depot, Jim raised a hand, signaling the team to stop. Movement ahead, he whispered, pointing to a shadow shifting near the depot entrance. Lena's heart raced as she caught sight of the creature, a forest shadow predator. Its elongated form moved with unnatural grace, its sensory appendages scanning the area. It hadn't detected them yet, but it was only a matter of time. Now or never, Jim muttered, removing a bite sphere from his pocket. With practiced precision, he launched the small orb toward the predator. The creature's reflexes were lightning fast. It snapped at the unfamiliar object, its powerful jaws crushing the bite sphere. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The predator convulsed, dark fluid leaking from its mouth as the enzyme attacked its cellular structure. It emitted a high-pitched shriek before staggering away, leaving a trail of fluid behind it. Elena quickly activated a recording device, capturing the entire interaction for analysis. It worked, she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. The enzyme caused exactly the reaction we predicted. Their victory was short-lived. Alarms began blaring throughout the corridor, and the sound of approaching security forces echoed from both directions. They've detected the Predator's distress signal, Ronaldo warned. We need to move, now. The team split up, with Jim leading the way back toward the tunnels, while Lena and Elena took an alternate route. As they separated, Jim pressed a data chip into Lena's hand. The full formula and production method, he explained hurriedly. Get this to the lab if we're separated. Before she could respond, the corridor filled with the distinctive hum of Feridian energy weapons. The escape had become a desperate race for survival. Ronaldo had uploaded the testing footage to the DeepNet, Marcity's underground information network, before they even made it back to headquarters. By morning, rumors were spreading throughout the human districts. Humans have a secret natural weapon. Our teeth can kill predators. The Alliance has been lying to us. The Alliance response was swift and severe. Public announcements denounced the dangerous misinformation, while security forces conducted raids on suspected fangs of Terra safe houses. Ambassador Zelser appeared on official broadcasts, condemning what he called biological terrorism and placing a bounty on the heads of those responsible, with Dr. Lena Van named as the primary suspect. "They're scared," Jim observed, watching the announcements from their secondary base beneath an abandoned hydroponics facility. "We've challenged their fundamental narrative about human capabilities." Lena was focused on production, having set up a makeshift assembly line to create more bite spheres. "We need to distribute these throughout Marcity," she insisted. "Not as weapons, but as defense tools for when, not if, the predators attack in greater numbers." The resistance group split into two teams. Jim would lead an offensive operation targeting the Outer Belt outpost, where Alliance weapons were stored, while Lena would oversee the distribution of bite spheres to civilian populations in Old Redhaven and other vulnerable districts. Neither of them suspected that their plans had already been compromised. Major Lareth Kaur stood in Ambassador Zelser's private chambers, his bioluminescent patterns displaying a mix of satisfaction and anticipation. "Your infiltrator performed admirably," Zelser commented, reviewing the intelligence report. "We now have the location of their primary base and details of both planned operations." "The humans are predictable," Lareth replied dismissively. "They believe their primitive dental enzymes can challenge our technological superiority. Nevertheless," Zelser cautioned, "this bite sphere technology represents an unexpected development. If other species learn that humans possess a natural biological defense mechanism, it will undermine the very foundation of our control," Lareth finished. "Which is why we must crush this resistance immediately and completely. My forces are prepared to strike their base within the hour." "And the forest shadow predators?" "A larger release has been authorized. This time, the attack will target civilian centers directly. When conventional defenses fail, we will step in with our protective measures, cementing human dependence once and for all." "Excellent." Zelser's patterns shifted to indicate pleasure. "And Dr. Van?" "She will be captured alive," Lareth assured him. "Her research will be confiscated, and she will publicly recant her findings, before suffering an unfortunate laboratory accident." Neither Feridian noticed the small maintenance drone hovering near the ceiling, a drone that Ronaldo had hacked into the private security network, recording every word of their conspiracy. The attack on the Fangs of Terra headquarters came without warning. Alliance security forces breached the outer defenses with overwhelming force, capturing Ronaldo, Elena, and several other key members before they could initiate emergency protocols. Lena narrowly escaped through a ventilation shaft, carrying a backpack filled with bite spheres and research data. From her hiding place in an adjacent tunnel, she watched in horror as Alliance forces systematically destroyed the equipment and research materials they had worked so hard to assemble. Meanwhile, Jim's team at the Outer Belt outpost found themselves walking into a trap. Alliance forces had been waiting, their weapons trained on the entrance points the moment the human resistance fighters appeared. The battle was brief, but fierce. Jim, recognizing the situation was hopeless, ordered his team to retreat while he provided covering fire. In a final act of defiance, he activated the bite spheres he was carrying, hurling them into the ranks of approaching Alliance soldiers. The chaos allowed most of his team to escape, but Jim himself was surrounded. As Feridian energy weapons converged on his position, his last action was to swallow a data chip containing crucial research information, denying it to the enemy even as he sacrificed himself. When word of Jim's death reached Lena in her temporary hideout, she felt something break inside her. The colonel had been more than just the leader of Fangs of Terra. He had been the first person to truly believe in her research, in the potential of human biology to stand against alien oppression. "He died protecting what we discovered," Elena said, having escaped the headquarters raid and found Lena through prearranged emergency contacts. "That our teeth, the most basic human weapon, could change everything," Grief turned to determination as Lena reviewed their situation. With their main base destroyed and Jim gone, the resistance was in disarray. But they still had the bite spheres, the research data, and most importantly, the recording of Zelser and Loreth's conversation revealing their conspiracy. We need to get that recording to the public, Lena decided. But they'll have locked down all communication networks by now. Not all of them, came a voice from the shadows. Rinaldo emerged, looking battered but determined. I escaped during transport. They didn't realize I had an implant override chip that allowed me to hack their restraint systems. Rinaldo! Elena embraced him. We thought you were captured. I was, but not for long, he replied grimly. They're planning something big. Lena, a massive predator release in civilian areas. And they're specifically hunting for you. Lena's expression hardened. Then let's give them exactly what they want. It's time we stopped hiding and took the fight directly to them. Her plan was audacious, dangerous, and their only hope. Lena would allow herself to be captured, carrying a hidden bite sphere and the incriminating recording. Once inside Zenith Tower for interrogation, she would confront Loreth Core directly, while Rinaldo used his hacking skills to broadcast the confession throughout Marcity. It's suicide, Elena protested. It's our only chance to expose the truth, Lena countered. While they're focused on me, you and the remaining resistance members will distribute the bite spheres to as many civilians as possible. Rinaldo looked uncertain. Even if this works, the Alliance has overwhelming military superiority. They do, Lena acknowledged. But they've built their entire strategy on the belief that humans have no natural weapons. Once that myth is shattered, everything changes. The capture was almost too easy. Lena appeared in a public area of the Zenith Tower concourse, and within minutes, she was surrounded by Alliance security forces. They confiscated her visible possessions, but missed the miniaturized bite sphere hidden in a hollow tooth. An irony not lost on Lena as they escorted her to the interrogation level. Major Loreth Core was waiting, his tall Feridian form dominating the sterile white room. Dr. Lena Van, he greeted her with artificial politeness. You've caused quite a stir in our peaceful community. Peaceful? Lena challenged. Is that what you call releasing forest shadow predators against civilian populations? Lareth's bioluminescent patterns flickered with surprise before he regained composure. I don't know what you're talking about. Those creatures escaped containment due to human negligence. That's not what you told Ambassador Zelser, Lena replied calmly. You were quite proud of your plan to use the predators to cement human dependence on Alliance protection. Fury replaced the surprise in Loreth's patterns. You have no proof of these absurd accusations. Don't I? Lena smiled. Right now, your conversation is being prepared for broadcast throughout Marcity. Every citizen, human and alien alike, will hear the truth about your conspiracy. Loreth lunged forward, grabbing Lena by the throat. You're bluffing! All communication networks are under Alliance control. Fighting through the pain of his grip, Lena managed to dislodge the hidden bite sphere with her tongue. Not all of them, she gasped, before spitting the sphere directly into Loreth's face. Instinctively, the Feridian's mouth opened in surprise, allowing the bite sphere to enter. The effect was instantaneous. The concentrated enzyme attacked his cellular structure, causing him to release Lena and collapse to the floor in agony. As he writhed in pain, the interrogation room's communication system activated, broadcasting Rinaldo's hacked message throughout not just Zenith Tower, but all of Marcity. Citizens of Mars, the Alliance has betrayed us all. Hear the truth from their own mouths. The recording played crystal clear, Zelser and Loreth discussing their plot to use biological weapons against civilians, their determination to suppress knowledge of human natural defenses, and their contempt for the species they claim to protect. As the recording concluded, alarms began blaring throughout the tower. On screens throughout the city, Reports began coming in of forest shadow predators, appearing in multiple sectors. The larger release, Loreth had mentioned, was underway. But this time, the human population wasn't defenseless. Thanks to Elena and the remaining fangs of Terra members, thousands of bite spheres had been distributed to civilian centers. As the predators attacked, they encountered an unexpected resistance. Humans, armed with the very natural weapon the Alliance had denied they possessed. The battle for Marcity had begun. Chaos engulfed Marcity as the Archelon attack force descended from ships hovering above the metropolis. Unlike the isolated predator incidents, this was a coordinated military assault, with Archelon warriors equipped with sensory projection beams that could incapacitate conventional defenses. From her position in Zenith Tower, having escaped the interrogation room in the confusion, Lena watched the initial stages of the invasion with a mixture of horror and determination. The Alliance's betrayal was now clear to everyone, but knowing the truth wouldn't stop the Archelon forces from overwhelming the city's defenses. "Lena, do you copy?" Elena's voice came through a secured communication channel. "I'm here," Lena responded, moving through the tower's maintenance corridors to avoid security. "What's the situation in the residential districts?" "Better than expected," Elena reported. "The bite spheres are working. When the predators bite them, the enzyme reaction is devastating. Civilian casualties are minimal in areas where we distributed them." "And the Archelon warriors?" "That's the problem. They're using long-range weapons to avoid close contact. They've learned about the bite spheres and are adapting their tactics." Lena processed this information quickly. "We need to adapt too. Get everyone to Old Postal Street. I have an idea." As Lena made her way down to the lower levels of Zenith Tower, she encountered a group of terrified civilians huddled in a maintenance bay. Among them was Min Brick-Tran, a 35-year-old former mercenary she recognized from previous Fangs of Terra meetings. "Dr. Van," he exclaimed, recognizing her. "Everyone's saying you created a weapon against the predators." "Not a weapon," Lena corrected, reaching into her pocket and pulling out her remaining bite spheres. "A defense. Our teeth, human teeth, produce enzymes that can harm Archelon biology. These spheres concentrate that enzyme." She quickly explained how to use them, distributing the spheres among the civilians. "But we need more than just these. We need to turn Old Redhaven into a fortress." With Brick's help, Lena organized the civilians into a defensive force, a bite task force, as they began calling themselves. The rallying cry, "Teeth are our primal weapons," spread through the human districts as more and more citizens joined the resistance. In Old Postal Street, Elena had implemented Lena's plan, setting bite traps beneath the street surface that would automatically trigger when predators stepped on them, releasing the enzyme directly into their lower extremities and immobilizing them. The Archelon forces, led by General Zelmore, had expected an easy conquest against defenseless humans. Instead, they found themselves facing an increasingly coordinated resistance. When their energy weapons, the sensory beam projectors, came into contact with humans holding bite spheres, the enzyme reaction caused feedback loops that disabled the weapons entirely. As the battle raged across Marcity, Lena led her bite task force in a daring assault on the Archelon command center that had been established on the 42nd floor of Zenith Tower. The human fighters, armed with nothing more than bite spheres and the knowledge of their own biological potential, fought their way through Archelon defenses. Finally, Lena found herself face to face with General Zelmore himself, a towering Archelon warrior whose reptilian features contorted with contempt as she entered his command center. "So this is the human who thinks teeth can challenge the might of the Archelon Empire," he hissed, his sensory appendages flaring. "A explorer species with inferior weapons, now relying on teeth? Absurd." "Not just teeth," Lena replied steadily. "Knowledge. The knowledge your alliance tried to keep from us. That we aren't helpless. That we have natural defenses encoded in our very biology. Zelmore laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. Your primitive enzymes cause minor irritation at best. They cannot stop the full might of our forces. Is that why your predators are retreating? Why your weapons are failing? Lena challenged, taking a step closer. You've built your entire strategy on a lie, that humans have no natural weapons. That lie ends today. With lightning speed, she launched herself forward, a concealed bite sphere between her teeth. Before Zelmore could react, she bit down on the sphere and spat the contents directly at the general's face. Due to a genetic quirk in Zelmore's biology, what Elena had identified as an enzyme allergy, the reaction was even more severe than expected. The mighty Archelon general collapsed, convulsing as the enzyme attacked his neural pathways. As he fell, he gasped out words that changed everything. It was Zelsur and Lareth. They knew about the human teeth enzymes, tested them on extinct Archelon species, feared your natural advantage. The Alliance Council knows nothing of this. Throughout Zenith Tower and across Marcity's communication networks, Zelmore's confession was broadcast thanks to Ronaldo's hacking skills. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Archelon forces, their morale crumbling as they realized they had been manipulated into an unjust war. Within hours, the invasion force began to withdraw. The Xerius Alliance Council, faced with irrefutable evidence of conspiracy within their ranks, had no choice but to recall their military forces and open emergency diplomatic channels with the human leadership. Ambassador Zelsur and Major Lareth Kor were publicly removed from their positions, with Alliance representatives promising a full investigation into their actions. More importantly, the biological mutuality and beast life regulation was formally abolished, with the Alliance officially acknowledging that humans possess natural defensive capabilities, specifically enzymes within their dental structure. As the dust settled, Lena found herself standing on the observation deck of Zenith Tower, watching Archelon ships departing Marcity's airspace. The victory had come at a heavy cost. Jim Carter was gone. Many resistance fighters had fallen, and parts of the city lay in ruins. Yet something fundamental had changed. For the first time since joining the Xerius Alliance, humans walked with their heads held high, no longer seen as defenseless creatures dependent on alien protection. Elena joined her on the observation deck, holding a tablet displaying the latest Alliance announcement. "They're calling it the Bite Equality Accord," she said, showing Lena the document. "Full recognition of human biological capabilities and equal status within the Alliance." "And Fangs of Terra?" Lena asked. "Officially recognized as the Earth Biological Defense Force," Elena replied with a smile. "Ronaldo's already been offered a position as head of cybersecurity." Lena nodded, a bittersweet feeling washing over her. "Jim would have been proud. He always believed in our potential, that our most basic features could be our greatest strength." A notification appeared on the communication network, a message from General Zelmore, who had survived his encounter with the concentrated enzyme. "To the Marcity Representative Council, I extend my formal apologies for my role in recent events. I propose cooperation in the development of bite medicine, a therapeutic application of human dental enzymes to treat conditions similar to Feridian cascade deterioration." Lena couldn't help but smile at the irony. The very enzyme that had defended humanity was now being recognized for its healing potential. Looking out over Marcity as it began the process of rebuilding, Lena felt a surge of pride. The artificial crimson sunset bathed the city in a warm glow that seemed to mirror the renewed spirit of its human inhabitants. "We may not have the most advanced weapons technology," she murmured, more to herself than to Elena. "But we should never underestimate our teeth, or what else we might discover about ourselves when we stop believing in our limitations." In the distance, a new flag was being raised above the headquarters of the newly established Earth Biological Defense Force, a stylized human tooth set against a field of stars. A symbol, not of aggression, but of humanity's rediscovered confidence in their own natural capabilities. The Xerius Alliance had claimed humans had no natural weapons. They had forgotten about our teeth. And in doing so, they had awakened a sleeping giant, the primal strength of humanity that had been there all along, waiting to be recognized.